Hey everybody, my name is Nana, and today we are doing a Pokemon challenge. We are going to see if I can beat Pokemon Emerald with just a Ralts. Now I did this playthrough a couple months ago on my own time where I did a Ralts to Curlier to Gardevoir playthrough, and it was a lot of fun. But I wanted to challenge myself just a bit more and decided to just do a Ralts only. Now let's go over some rules before we jump straight into the video. So as the title, and as this video would make sense, we are only going to be able to use Ralts in battle. We are going to catch other Pokemon to teach them necessary HMs, but in battle, it's only going to be Ralts. We also aren't going to be able to use any items in battle. The only items that we are allowed to use in battle are going to be berries and held items. So berries and Quick Claw are okay. Outside of battle, we can use whatever items we want. So we're going to have to heal in between battles a lot. We're also not going to do any glitches or exploits. We're going to play this game as it was intended and see how far we go. Alright, let's crack straight into it. First things first is I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Trico with Ralts and set off into our first battle against the Zigzagoon. Now the only problem with Ralts this early on is that we don't know any attacking moves. We only know Growl. So when we face any Poochyenas or Team Aqua, we're going to have to go in with no PP on any of our moves and end up just struggling them to death. We're going to have to do that until we learn a TM that's somewhat useful. Fingers crossed that we can actually do it. After the Zigzagoon fled, we fought our rival, and Torchic doesn't know any flame moves early, so we just wasted PP points and ended up struggling it to death. I honestly expected this to be a little bit harder, but I mean it went smoothly. We watched Wally capture one of our comrades and set off into the forest to train. Now, we only really trained against Silcoons and Cascoons, mostly because, well, they can't fight back. That saved a lot of healing items and running back and forth. Next up, Rock Gym. Now, the Rock Gym actually gave us some issues, mostly because our speed kept getting reduced and Rock Throw did a lot of damage. I'm gonna have to come back a couple levels higher, I think. Now, I came back a couple levels higher, and we finally made it to Nosepass. Nosepass is really beefy, and even with a crit right there, we still lost. I'm a little stubborn, and I believe that I could do this without leveling. Now, we came back and swept through the Geodudes pretty easily, and since we had already double-teamed quite a bit early on in the battle, we were counting on Nosepass missing quite a bit. We just kept spamming Confusion and Confusion over and over again, hoping for the best, and Nosepass missed quite a bit actually. You know, I like challenges like these. Nosepasses are really easy. Hopefully the rest of this challenge is like that. I doubt it, but fingers crossed. We ended up going into the cave and saving Pico, and we had to use that old struggle trick that I was talking about earlier. It wasn't hard at all, and we moved on pretty quick from it. After a quick rival battle, we made our way towards Dewford. Now, I knew that this gym was going to be relatively easy since we are psychic and this is a fighting gym, but we absolutely mopped the floor with every single trainer inside this gym. So only Brawley was left. He started out with his Machop just like usual, and we almost killed him in one hit. He ended up using a super potion, and we got a super lucky crit. Thank goodness. Next up was Metatite, and I hate Metatite. I think Metatite is so annoying, so watching him go down gave me a little bit of a smile. Next up was Makuhita, and his Vital Throw can actually do a lot of damage. We ended up getting very lucky and Confusion our way to victory. I ended up replacing Growl with Calm Mind because we're going to need it later for the Elite Four. I did some grinding before our rival battle and set off into it. First up was Wingull. Now, Wingull isn't too much of an issue, but I decided to go ahead and use Double Team here just in case. I don't want to get hit by anything that's going to, destroy me. I ended up getting hit by the Supersonic, which kind of sucks. I was hoping that the Double Team would, not allow that, but can't always have RNG on your side, right? We took down the Wingull, and next up was Lombre. Lombre, never really an issue, so I decided to take the opportunity to Double Team again. I don't want to get hit by any fire moves. Those are going to hurt, and we ended up getting a nice crit, and Lombre missed. So, Lombre out of the way. Last Pokemon is Combustion, and this is the one that I was a little bit worried about, but Double Team kicked in, and we hit 2 Confusions. That was relatively easy, honestly. Now, next up is going to be the Electric Gym, the thing that we've been dreading this whole time. I did a little bit of grinding before the electric gym just to see if I could take it out at the level that I was, but honestly, it went as well as you would expect. The Magneton came out and just destroyed us. Voltorb was a tough first Pokemon to face, and, well, the next few attempts weren't any different. He kept self-destructing or paralyzing us, so it didn't go well. But after that, we actually had a decent run. We ended up leveling up to 36. Yeah, 36. Just to be able to fight some level 22s, 25s. It was quite a grind, to say the least. But we eventually got it. We went up against the Magneton, used some Calm Minds, and, it actually kind of worked. Next up was the Manectric. Manectric is kind of scary, but not really. We took it out, and that grabbed us the Electric Gym badge. Thank goodness, we finally have Shockwave, a decently half-good move that we can actually hit some Dark types with. I would prefer Thunderbolt, but we can't get that until later. I did a little bit of grinding before I took the cable car up to face Maxie. Now, I was worried that we were too underleveled to face Maxie, just because his camera up does no Earthquake, and we do not have very good defense. I gave it a couple tries, and it did not go well. We finally had a good run where we hadn't taken too much damage, and we hit a big Psychic. That lowers his special defense, which is going to come in handy later. I ended up opting in for another Psychic after he got a crit on an Ember, and that was it. He used a Super Potion, but since his special defense was already lowered, it really didn't matter. That took way too many tries than I would like to admit. Next up is going to be the Fire Gym. Oh boy. If we get burned, that might just be the end of it. We easily beat all the trainers inside the Fire Gym and set out against Flannery. I opted in for Double Team, mostly just because I didn't want to get hit later on. Nubble doesn't pose any real threat, so we can just sit here and Double Team as much as we want. After we Double Teamed a couple times and he Magnituded a couple times, he started missing. I thought, that might be a good idea, and just kept Double Teaming. I opted in for a Psychic and took him down in one shot easily. Next up was Slugma. Slugma, another one of those Pokemon that is not a threat. We took it out with one Psychic. Next up, Camerupt. Now, Camerupt is half of the problem. We took him out surprisingly easy. After the Maxi fight, I was a little worried, but he was a low level. Torkoal came out, missed his overheat, and we took him out for the win. Next up was the normal type gym, and it pretty much went like this. Slacking would come out and just facade us. This took way too many attempts than I want to admit. I probably spent a good hour and a half on this. I was really frustrated and didn't want to go back and just grind for hours and hours, so I kept trying until RNG was on our side. We took out the Vigoroth in one hit, and next up was the Slacking. He kept putting us to sleep, which was just a huge issue. I mean, we just can't even hit him. We got lucky with some Psychics, but fell asleep. He restored some health with the berry, facaded us, and we woke up. We eventually killed him with a Psychic. Holy cow. That is our biggest issue out of the way. Next up was Lanoon. We used Psychic, he used Slash, and then he healed. We kept using Psychic, and he kept healing. This was so annoying after I'd finally beaten the Slacking, but we eventually got him down and took the win. Thank goodness. After the normal type gym, we went into the basement and finally got the Thunderbolt TM. This is going to help us so much in our battle against the Elite Four. Shockwave is just not going to cut it. After this, we went into our second to last rival fight, and it was pretty easy. Combustion doesn't pose any issue, and neither does Lombre. Since we have Thunderbolt, Pelipper went down in one shot. This is our second to last rival battle, but I honestly don't expect our last one to go any different. We're just too overpowered, honestly. I made my way straight towards the flying type gym just to see how I could do. Now, they do have Skarmory and Pelipper, but since we have Thunderbolt, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. I started out with Psychic just to see how much damage it would do, and almost took the Swablu out. Swablu ended up using a Hyper Potion, but we got a high roll on a Psychic and took it out. Next up was Tropius. I opted in for Psychic another time, and he used Sunny Day. Aerial Ace came out, and one more Psychic took him out. Next up, Pelipper. Pelipper was no threat at all. We Thunderbolted him into Oblivion and moved on. Skarmory came racing out, and we just used Thunderbolt again. Honestly, Thunderbolt is kind of OP, especially for this gym. Next up was Altaria, and Altaria is probably the scariest Pokemon in this gym. But we used a Psychic, took him to half health, then hit him with another one and almost took him out. Winona ended up using a Hyper Potion, completely healing Altaria, but we took him out in one more Psychic. That was kind of easy. Next up was our last rival battle. This is a great segue for me to tell you that the last gym that we have to face, I may have forgotten to press record on it, so I don't have any footage of it. You're just going to have to take my word for it that it went really easily and we beat it in the first try. But before that even happened, we beat our rival and headed into the Psychic Gym. Thunderbolt carried us, we took out Xatu, and Solrock and Lunatone came out. They're not much of an issue either. I opted in trading out Confusion with Double Team mostly because it's going to be our best friend in the Elite Four and for the champion. He has a lot of Pokemon that are going to outspeed us, so we need to count on them missing. We went straight into the Dark type, and Shiftry was usually an issue just mostly towards Torment, but we took him out. I decided to speedrun this mostly because it was a lot of grinding. Thunderbolt carried us through, and we moved on. Next up, Dusclops. Dusclops was not an issue. He did curse us a couple times on a couple of our tries, but we ended up taking him out with relative ease. The rest of the Pokemon, very easy. One-shotted all of them and moved on. Next up was the Ice, and I decided to Calm Mind here a couple times just to make sure that I could take out everyone in a single hit, and it paid off. Glalie was usually an issue in all my other attempts, but we one-shotted them. Thank goodness. Next up was going to be Dragon, and this gave me so many issues just because of the Shelgon. We double teamed and calm-minded multiple times just to make sure that we could one-shot everybody and everybody would miss as much as possible, and it paid off. Hallelujah. Next up, the Champion. The Champion's Warlord was an issue in my previous runs, mostly because he would paralyze us with Body Slam, but we took him out with a nice Thunderbolt, and everyone else was relatively easy. Ludicolo also gave us issues in the past runs, but not this time. The last Pokemon that is going to give us issues is going to be Melodic. At least I thought. I gave it a good, long, hard thought on what I should do, and Thunderbolt was the answer. I don't know why it took me so long to think of this, but yeah, it was just a two-shot. Kind of silly. And with that, we have entered the Hall of Fame, beating Pokemon Emerald with just a Ralts. This was a lot of fun. Probably one of my favorite playthroughs I've ever done. It was a lot harder than our Gardevoir run, and I love that. Ralts is one of my favorite Pokemon, and I know that might just be a general broad thing to say, but it was just a lot of fun. I don't know what else to say. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I probably am going to continue doing this. I'm not entirely sure what Pokemon I want to do next or in which game, but if you guys have any recommendations or anything that you want to see, then let me know. It would be a lot of fun to play through multiple games with multiple Pokemons. Anyways, guys, have a great one.